Was modern art a scam all along? Hi, I'm Nate Houseman. It's my hope that on this channel you receive news, knowledge, and resources to help you thrive in the 21st century on your own terms. In this video, we're going to talk about Hunter Biden, obvious scam with his new art career. We're also going to talk about what is going to take the place of corporations in the future, and we're also going to look at more evidence of Hollywood's rapidly dwindling mojo. So let's get started. If you find this content valuable, give it a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and share it with your friends and family. We'll get to Hunter Biden first, a little bit later. But first, let's talk about decentralized autonomous organizations. I mentioned this at the end of my last video. I think we need to take a closer look right now. What is a decentralized autonomous organization? This is the platform that's going to replace your corporate overlords in the century. So let's look. Blockchain technology, which powers Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Blockchain technology enables novel ways to exchange value and information while automating complex processes in a transparent and secure manner. A decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO for short, is an organization that runs on a blockchain protocol fully and autonomously in accordance with rules encoded via smart contracts. By circumventing the need for human intervention or centralized coordination, DAOs are often referred to as trustless systems. With cryptographic instructions that automatically execute when pre-established conditions are triggered, DAOs enable previously unattainable levels of transparency, cost savings, and decentralized decision-making. So a decentralized autonomous organization is a blockchain-specific organizational model that addresses a perennial challenge present in almost every industry and organization, the principal-agent dilemma. Whenever a system is structured in a way in which an individual or entity, called the agent, has the ability to make decisions or take actions on behalf of another individual or entity, the principal, there is an inherent risk in the divergent goals, priorities, or access to crucial information of the respective parties. Basically, having a boss and having them make decisions for you, even if they're not in your best interests. This is the principal-agent dilemma, and it means that an agent may be motivated to act in accordance with its own self-interest, even if the agent was selected to make decisions on behalf of the principal's interests. At present, this dilemma is a common challenge that affects a broad spectrum of public and private entities. Aiming to address this problem by reducing or bypassing the need for hierarchical human intervention or centralized coordination, DAOs are often referred to as trustless systems. By ensuring that the incentive structures and information flow within an organization are properly aligned in the codified format, DAOs play a central role in mitigating the typical problems associated with the principal-agent dilemma. The alignment of incentives is a defining concept of blockchain protocols, and DAOs apply similar logic to organizations of governance. A properly executed DAO aligns the incentives of stakeholders, from founders to token holders to users and the general community, in governing an organization or decentralized platform. The potential effects of implementing DAOs on a broad scale are enormous, as are the real-world challenges of effectively applying technology that enables a DAO. So, instead of having a human executive or C-suite making decisions that affect the lives of all the employees and customers and shareholders of a company, looks like a DAO runs on a program that's basically decentralized and controlled by everyone in the organization who might own a stake in it or have a stake in it. So how do DAOs work? With the specific underlying mechanisms powering a DAO, while the specific underlying mechanisms powering a DAO vary across different blockchain projects, there are several general phases a DAO must undergo to launch in a sustainable manner. Smart contract setup. Before a DAO can be deployed, the underlying rules must be defined and encoded in a series of smart contracts. So what's a smart contract? It is Foundational technology in the blockchain and a key element of the Ethereum network, a smart contract is a self-executing code that carries out a set of instructions which are then verified on the blockchain. These contracts are trustless, autonomous, decentralized, and transparent. They are irreversible and unmodifiable once deployed. Quite popular in decentralized finance, they have several other use cases. So that's that. Given that future changes to the DAO's operational workflows, governance system, and incentive structures will need to be voted on in order to take effect, this phase is arguably the most important step to creating a sustainable and truly autonomous DAO, as any initial mistakes or overlooked details could potentially destabilize the project down the line. Funding. Once the creators of a DAO have established its governing smart contracts, the DAO needs to receive funding in order to operate. The DAO's smart contracts must entail the creation and distribution of some form of internal property, such as a native cryptocurrency token that can be spent by the DAO, utilized in voting mechanisms, or be used to incentivize certain activities. So you can use these tokens to buy shares in the DAO, or buy a stake in the DAO, or you can be paid in these tokens as an employee of the DAO, or as a member, or as a worker. From there, individuals or entities interested in participating in the DAO's growth can purchase or otherwise acquire the DAO's native token, which typically results in acquiring voting rights. So this can also take the place of unions and collective bargaining. So for a while I've said that if employees want to have a fair shake in their corporations, they need to have like equity ownership. Either they need to like own their own stock in the company, or have some other form of like stake in it other than just a paycheck. Deployment. Once a DAO receives enough funding to be deployed, all of its decisions are made via a consensus vote. As a result, all token holders become stakeholders who can then make proposals regarding the DAO's future and how its funds are spent. If the DAO's token distribution policy and consensus mechanisms defined in its underlying smart contract architecture are well designed, the DAO stakeholders will naturally work towards the most beneficial outcome for the entire DAO network. The resulting DAO organization can therefore operate independently from its creators or any other central authority. Since DAOs are open source, all of their rules, transactions, and activities are recorded on the blockchain and can be reviewed by anyone, which generally ensures full transparency and immutability. In short, the DAO stakeholders are bound together by a common goal, which they will vote to advance to the pursuit of a specific network incentives defined by the DAO's underlying consensus policies. So there would be no secret backroom deals. There will be no like favors under the table, which we're going to talk about with Hunter Biden. There will be no office politics and climbing the ladder and backstabbing. All right, applying DAOs to the real world. Because DAOs embody a marked departure from the structure of traditional organizations and how they operate, there are numerous legal and operational challenges these organizations must overcome. For instance, DAOs can be physically distributed across multiple countries and jurisdictions. Any resulting legal issues likely would require dealing with multiple regional laws and any relevant cross-border contractual relationships. Furthermore, because changing a DAO's code or smart contract structure requires a consensus vote, malicious actors could possibly exploit a bug or design flaw before the DAO stakeholders manage to collectively resolve the issue. This exploit crippled one of the earliest crowdfunding efforts on the Ethereum blockchain. In 2016, DAO, like the original organization of this kind, it was hacked because of vulnerabilities in its code base, which resulted in a controversial hard fork of the Ethereum network to move funds stolen from the DAO to a new smart contract. The incident was a critical moment in blockchain, and since then, avoiding another such hack has been a priority for developers. That said, DAOs have continued to gain traction in the marketplace. At present, there are a number of promising blockchain projects that have fully incorporated decentralized governance mechanisms, particularly within the decentralized finance landscape, or DeFi for short. Below is a non-exhaustive list of existing blockchain projects that embody the core tenets of a DAO. There's Bitcoin, of course. There's Dash, which is an open source peer-to-peer cryptocurrency that offers payments and private transactions. There's MakerDAO, a decentralized lending network built on the Ethereum blockchain and is the protocol behind the stablecoin DAI. There is Uniswap, unreleased native governance token Uni, in order to transition Uniswap into a decentralized community-owned protocol. So Uniswap, I think, is basically a trading platform that's decentralized. It's like an alternative to corporate-owned exchanges like Coinbase or Uphold, or even stock market exchanges like Robinhood, which everyone is super angry at because of the meme stock saga. All right, from the examples above, it's clear that many blockchain projects built with decentralized philosophies are on a journey toward achieving the ideal of complete decentralization. To this point, it's important to note that the more stakeholders a DAO has, the more decentralized it becomes. This is a major reason why so many existing blockchain projects allow for a certain level of centralized decision-making in the initial stages of the project prior to achieving the scale required to transition into a full-fledged DAO. And given that most DeFi projects are only a few years old, many of these projects have yet to transition into a fully fledged decentralization, although achieving DAO status is oftentimes a central goal of these projects. So in conclusion, while the challenges of designing and deploying truly sustainable, value-generating DAOs are significant, DAOs nonetheless represent a potentially world-changing new form of corporate governance. As the legal gray areas surrounding DAOs are clarified, an increasing number of organizations may look to adopt DAO platforms to automate certain aspects of their core business activities. And while the ever-increasing complexity of modern-day business models means that DAO stakeholders will need to adapt their systems accordingly, the goal of establishing truly transparent and self-governing organizations is becoming more of a reality. And in the next article, we're going to see how this applies to supply chains, which is a very important issue after the cyber attacks we've seen, or the you might say false flags. See my previous video on that topic. So let's look at this. From CoinDesk, the age of autonomous supply chains. Companies can replace top-down planning with self-organizing blockchain systems, says our columnist. Think of supply chains orchestrated by smart contracts. So one of the biggest hurdles of starting your own business is getting funding and organizing how you're going to get your product from the manufacturer to the store or to the wholesaler, or from the farm to the retailer. So this could be a big step towards decentralizing all the our food chain and making it more efficient and making more peer-to-peer, like letting farmers supply their food products directly to customers. So let's look at this. We associate the concept of central planning with grim images of collapsing Soviet economies, but it turns out that central planning is also the main engine for how capitalist modern economies run, at least inside the enterprise, though with perhaps a slightly better track record. It turns out, whether it's the national level or inside the enterprise, that people do not like being told what to do or being guided by central planning. Despite that, since the 1960s, companies have been trying to make computerized top-down planning and scheduling work so they can operate their business networks more efficiently. These centralized planning systems are both costly and complex, and with the rise of blockchain-based industrial operations, there's an opportunity to put many of them out to pasture. Just like the real world, blockchains are decentralized systems where individual actors participate alongside others, but there's no centralized coordinating entity. In the place of top-down inventory planning and forecasting, smart contracts could be used to allow decentralized operations. Stores or locations that run out of inventory can then look around for potential suppliers, checking on the cost of buying replacement inventory from nearby stores, distributors, or directly from the factory. Each local participant needs to focus only on setting their own rules to manage their replenishment plans and forecast. Crowdsourced services like ride sharing already do something like that. None of them directly tells drivers when to drive or riders when to ride. Instead, they allow some form of supply and demand matching to occur directly in the market. Current systems are still highly centralized, with a lot of analytics tools being used to nudge drivers and riders toward an equilibrium with things like bonuses and surge pricing. It is less hands-on than centralized planning, but still far from an entirely free market. So, one of the promises of the gig economy, and I drive Uber and I do DoorDash. It's one of my I believe you can't really depend on one income, but it's a challenge because you can't set your own prices. You can set your own hours, but you're kind of at the mercy of the centrally controlled app to set your prices, to get a request. So if anyone wants to make a decentralized rideshare app or decentralized delivery app, I'll have a resource for you after the story here. So, moving on. These types of systems are still much more responsive than central planning systems, although that's a low bar to hurdle. Planning has always been tough, and the gradual evolution of the process has taken decades. In the process, you take the material plan for a product, and then backwards calculate how many should be ordered based on your production schedule. The result is, in theory, an orderly sequence of purchases that will refill your stocks in a timely manner. Once products are built, a separate plan, often known as the distribution plan, pushes them out into the sales channel. The theory sounds good. In reality, most enterprise supply chains are a dumpster fire of panic drills and frantic fulfillment efforts. No plan ever survives contact with reality, and just about anything can go wrong, from errors in product design to giant container ships getting stuck in the Suez Canal. The author once met an executive who supervised a network of private jets focused primarily on emergency supply chain runs. While spending $100,000 to ship $10,000 in plastic door handles might seem ridiculous, it's cheaper than idling a $1 billion factory or making several thousand cars without door handles and then having staff manually attach them later. And all that has happened before we've dealt with sudden changes in supply or demand. Given all the things that can go wrong, the most successful companies make the coordination of business operations a strategic priority for their top executives and are very hands-on in managing the details of the supply chain. Early on in the author's career, he worked at a supply chain planning software vendor and had the opportunity to watch the CEO of a major technology company preside over its sales and operations planning meeting. He was invited to attend the planning meeting as an observer to inform my work in process and system design. Since there, he was amazed to watch the CEO personally engage in the process. A shortage of parts from a key supplier meant that the company's high-end and high-margin products that were the key to the holiday season would be in short supply. And while that was far from ideal, there was still available capacity to increase production from the company's lower-margin products. In that meeting, they agreed to ramp up production of the lower-margin items and change the advertising and sales emphasis to the products they would have in stock, not the ones they originally planned. The agility they showed in the planning process probably made the very best of a bad situation. That meeting set a benchmark of CEO-level engagement in supply chain management that I've never yet seen equaled. Although there aren't yet any models for autonomous or decentralized supply chain planning, there's at least one centralized method that comes close and works very well. The Kanban system was originally developed by Toyota and executed in the early days without any software at all. Like many great ideas, the system is a perfect encapsulation of the philosophy that less can sometimes be more. Kanban systems eschew advanced planning software for physical cards. When inventory runs low or out, a card is sent to the next level back in the supply chain, requesting replenishment. Without regarding some grand plan, inventory flows through the system by a set of pull signals. The best feature of the Kanban system is that the planning signal comes all the way from the marketplace, and the network responds to the demand signal directly, rather than pushing products forward based on a plan. Kanban systems are simple and efficient and work well both in paper and digital versions. There remain significant limitations to these kinds of systems. They do not work well in build-to-order environments where every product is customized or where there are frequent engineering changes. There are also big challenges for centralized systems. Want to make a supply chain planner cry? Tell them you have an engineering change order coming. For many cases, though, a blockchain-based autonomous supply chain network would bring big benefits. Smart contracts would be free to look at supply not just from the warehouse or factory, but perhaps also from nearby stores and other sources. Local smart contracts could even get smarter over time, developing unique, localized historical data of demand and an understanding of how to balance different supply sources in time and money. To get to this future state, we still need to make dramatic progress in our ability to tokenize digital assets as they move through the supply chain. This data exists today, but it is rarely packaged in the form of digital tokens that can be seen and managed by smart contracts. As blockchain transaction capacity rises and more companies move their procurement and traceability activities on chain, adding planning and shifting towards self-organizing networks looks more and more feasible. The future of planning is the rise of self-organizing systems over top-down planning. From ride-sharing to vacation homes, we are already experiencing how systems that are driven by individual entities can be as responsive and effective as top-down models. It's only a matter of time before this approach moves to the industry supply chain. So, it looks, so rideshare and things like Airbnb and other like direct sales markets, they're peer-to-peer, so they're not entirely controlled by a central authority, but there's still that app which is the middleman. So, do you want to build a decentralized app for such a thing? Let's talk about the one of the sponsors of this, not sponsored, but one of the resources here, the Ivan on Tech Academy. Now, Ivan on Tech has a great YouTube channel based on cryptocurrency, blockchain, and how to trade and invest. And Ivan, his last name, let me look down here so I can pronounce it right. He's from Sweden. Ivan Liljeqvist. He runs this online learning center to help you learn how to develop decentralized apps, cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, and also how to look at all this. Bitcoin Standard Course, Crypto for Beginners, Ethereum 101, Ethereum Smart Contract, Baseline Protocol. So, kickstart your career. So, if you click on the link below, you can get enrolled in Ivan on Tech Academy and start building your own app. And it'll help support my channel as well. So, get on that. Moving on. As soon as the page loads, the left's Bitcoin dilemma. This is also from CoinDesk. Politicians like Elizabeth Warren are pushing Bitcoin policies that put the U.S.'s commitment to free speech at risk. It has often been said that the creation of Bitcoin was rooted in a libertarian or even anarcho-capitalist ideology. And there are even some public comments from peer-to-peer electronics that the peer-to-peer electronic cash system's creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, to support this theory. Satoshi Nakamoto is not this person's real name. They're anonymous. It could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be a group of people. But they're the ones who wrote the Bitcoin white paper and laid out how it would work. And Bitcoin became a thing in 2009. It was really a result. It was a reaction to the economic crisis of 2008. Many of the earliest Bitcoin adopters and promoters were self-described libertarians who frequented the annual Porcupine Freedom Festival in New Hampshire, and these early supporters of the technology were largely motivated by the cyberpunk vision of changing the world through the development of new tools for humanity rather than going through the traditional political process. If you accept the premise there's a hardcore libertarian mindset behind the promotion of Bitcoin, that there are obvious reasons for those with left-leaning political beliefs to hate it. Now, I would say left-leaning authoritarian. There's also the liberal libertarian. It's really not a spectrum. It's more like a patchwork. A Bitcoin standard in which either government-issued currencies are pegged to the crypto asset or everyone using Bitcoin as a currency directly would make it more difficult to have a large percentage of overall economic activity centralized in the hands of government officials, because governments would be forced to tax or borrow to pay for their expenditures, rather than issuing new money and potentially diluting the value of the local fiat currency. Additionally, Bitcoin can make it easier for individuals to hide their savings from Big Brother in a situation where privacy, liquidity, and the circular economy around Bitcoin are improved. Obviously, such concealment would be a blow to the sorts of wealth redistribution programs that are popular on the left. At the same time, Bitcoin's environmental impact has been rising up in the policy agenda, giving critics on the left additional ammunition to attack the cryptocurrency and its energy-intensive proof-of-work system. That said, much of the climate change-focused hysteria around Bitcoin mining has, at least up to this point, been based on bad science. In reality, there is an argument to be made that Bitcoin mining helped improve the economics of renewable energy sources. The perception that Bitcoin is an attack on liberal democracy as a whole has caused the conscience of a liberal author and Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Krugman to refer to the cryptocurrency network as everything from libertarian derp to downright evil. Wow, that's the best endorsement I've ever seen. Paul Krugman is... What can I say about him? More recently, U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, Democrat from Massachusetts, has called for a crackdown on Bitcoin due to its perceived negative effects on the environment. Meanwhile, U.S. Congressman Brad Sherman, Democrat from California, and Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, have called for outright bans on Bitcoin. Of course, the problem with banning Bitcoin, outside the fact that it was built for the specific purpose of avoiding government regulation, is that making a transaction on the Bitcoin network amounts not much more than broadcasting a string of ones and zeros over the internet or some other communication channel. Put differently, a ban on using the Bitcoin network necessitates restrictions on free speech. It is not dissimilar to the decades-old debate over the use of strong encryption by the general public, commonly referred to as the crypto wars. So the real question is, are left-leaning politicians in the United States and elsewhere going to make an anti-free speech and, to put it bluntly, authoritarian argument to implement their desired Bitcoin policy? Should this policy also be extended to online communications more generally? Where are they going to draw the line? Are the Democrats in the United States going to abandon one of the key principles upon which the country was founded? To be clear, those in power have always had an incentive to squash the minority opinion, and the free speech issue speaks to the authoritarian tendencies found on both sides of the aisle. For example, in the United States, both Democrat and Republican presidents have taken authoritarian stances on whistleblowers and political dissidents, such as NSA contractor Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. However, those on the left seem more willing to sacrifice their values around free speech when it comes to Bitcoin specifically, due to it being a financial phenomenon. Or maybe they just don't understand the implications of their stances. To be fair, there are some pro-Bitcoin Democrats out there, from Colorado Governor Jared Polis to Joe Biden's economic advisor Tim Wu. Additionally, Donald Trump is clearly not a fan of the cryptocurrency. What many of the people who are uniting around politically motivated technologies like Bitcoin really seem to want, more than anything else, is less hypocrisy from those in power. It'll be interesting to see how left-leaning politicians like Warren react when the free speech implications for their Bitcoin policies are put on full display. So, now for something completely different. More authoritarianism. Falling away. As California reopens, Disneyland sees massive, mostly maskless, and non-socially distanced crowds. So, Disney World in Florida has been doing killer business really since last year, because Ron DeSantis has been much more open and critical of the world's reaction to to the COVID pandemic. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California and home of Disneyland, has been so tight-fisted. I believe I talked about him in my last video. So Disneyland opened its gates a bit more on Tuesday, but it was not enough. On the first day of Governor Gavin Newsom's California reopening, the Anaheim Park was allowed to return to full capacity, and it was inundated with visitors. While Disneyland officials and those at many other parks in Southern California repeatedly have said that park entry would require reservations, a massive line formed on the sidewalk of people who reportedly just showed up hoping to get in. Outside of the front gate itself, more long lines clogged the plaza between Disneyland and California Adventure. According to photos posted online and one Disney blogger who was there, the majority of people were maskless. Masks are only mandatory at the Anaheim Park for the unvaccinated. The posted policy, which follows state recommendations, says face coverings are not required for fully vaccinated guests, both indoors and outdoors. Guests ages 2 and older who are not fully vaccinated must continue wearing face coverings indoors, except when dining. While guests will not be required to show proof of vaccination, which I believe would be a HIPAA violation, all guests must attest that they are aware that the state of California strongly recommends that guests be fully vaccinated or obtain a negative COVID-19 test prior to entering the Disneyland Resort. And 2, unvaccinated guests must wear face coverings when indoors. Also, in accordance with California guidelines, Disneyland has relaxed its social distancing rules, allowing guests to self-determine distancing. From photos taken inside the park, it looks as if many guests have determined that's not an issue. Yet people are just packed to the gills. I thought I'd mention that because it's always fun to see what Disney's has going on. And what else does Disney have going on? Well, it looks like their Lucasfilm division is trying to get in on the anime phenomenon. Hollywood and Western comics have just been going off a cliff because all the kids are reading manga and they're watching anime. So, Lucasfilm to attend Anime Expo Light to showcase Star Wars Visions with a sneak peek. Lucasfilm will provide a sneak peek at their upcoming animated anthology series, Star Wars Visions, at Anime Expo Light. Lucasfilm will host a 30-minute panel hosted by Chessie Vicencio. According to a press release, the panel will begin on July 3rd, 2001 at 3 p.m. Pacific time. The official description from the panel reads, Lucasfilm Star Wars Visions is an upcoming anthology of animated shorts celebrating Star Wars through the lens of the world's best anime creators and storytellers. Tune in for a sneak peek that will leave you excited for this all-new vision of the galaxy far, far away. Star Wars Visions was announced during Disney Investor Day 2020 back in December 2020. Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy provided a brief introduction. She stated, Star Wars Visions will be a series of animated short films celebrating the Star Wars galaxy through the lens of the world's best anime creators. This anthology collection will bring 10 fantastic visions from several of the leading Japanese anime studios, offering a fresh and diverse cultural perspective to Star Wars, Kennedy concluded. So, people are turning more and more to anime because Japan is kind of sitting outside of Hollywood's neuroticism. So, and because anime is getting so huge, Hollywood wants a piece of that. So, take that for which will. Let's talk about another resource for you. I keep mentioning iTrust Capital. So, iTrust Capital is a platform where you can invest in physical gold and cryptocurrency to help power your retirement. You can start a Roth IRA or 401k. You can click on the referral link below to get started, and that'll help support the channel. Moving on to our final Main event. Hunter Biden's abstract art sold for $500,000 to anonymous and confidential collectors, says his ex-con agent, raising serious questions about who the buyers are. This is from the Daily Mail, and everyone's talking about this, at least everyone who's not a cable news, flack. This is going to make me wonder: was abstract art, modern art, from Picasso since, has it all been really just a pass-through for bribing politicians or powerful business leaders? Let's look at this. Hunter Biden is preparing to sell his artworks in an upcoming exhibition for as much as $500,000 to anonymous and confidential buyers, sparking concerns over bribery and potential money laundering. The scandal-plagued first son, who has no professional background as an artist, will be selling off his artwork at a solo exhibition in New York City this fall. Biden's art dealer, Jordes Burgess, who was jailed in California in the 90s for assault, told ArtNet that he has priced his latest client's artworks between $75,000 and $500,000. Art dealers have already noted that Biden is likely profiting off his father's name, given the staggering price of his artwork, with one saying his art would more likely sell for as much as $100,000 if he wasn't the Biden. All sales of Biden's artwork will be kept confidential, despite his alleged corruption over prior business deals in Ukraine and China. It has raised concerns that buyers with nefarious interests could potentially pay for the pieces to try to get access to Joe Biden through his son. There are also fears from some of the sales of Biden's artwork could result in people using laundered money to buy them, and anonymous buyers in places like Russia might try purchasing Biden's son's work to try and get around sanctions currently imposed in their countries. In October 2020, the U.S. Treasury Department issued a warning that high-value art sales could be used by individuals and countries forbidden from doing business in the U.S. as a way of circumventing that ban. The Treasury Department advisory warned that the anonymity afforded to art buyers made it harder to track such illegal activity. It also warned the same buyers could then potentially resell the same artworks in the United States, enabling them to take money out of the U.S. and potentially fund activities such as terrorism. So there's Hunter Biden with his new teeth. Here's one of his pieces. It's typical modern art. The agency representing Biden's art dealer says it's common for gallery and auction sales to remain confidential, but this practice has been scrutinized by law enforcement agencies in recent years. Pricing fine art in his experiences as a gallerist is based on the demand of the work as well as the intrinsic value of it, a statement from Burgess' agency said. His feeling is that within each piece, as with every artist, sales are always confidential to protect the privacy of the collector. This is standard practice for transactions in galleries as well as auction houses. Many on social media, however, were not convinced. Former Trump communications director Tim Murtaugh tweeted, "It's now actually commonplace for people to throw piles of money at Hunter Biden. Will the rest of the corporate media care that anonymous collectors are dropping large sums on the president's sons? Or not? They couldn't possibly want anything. They're just art lovers, right?" Conservative commentator John Cardillo questioned whether Biden's painting career could be a way of offering access to his dad for cash. Hunter Biden's art will soon hit the market up for $500,000 per piece. Money laundering, he tweeted. And just like that, Chinese, Iranian, and Russian collectors will be shelling out big bucks for Hunter Biden's art, as their sanctions continue to be lifted with nothing in return. Money laundering and other crimes has long been an issue in the art world because of how secretive sales can be, and how it can be sold off with 100% tax deductions. This kind of makes me feel kind of queasy, kind of skin crawly. And he's using a pipe to blow the paint. Meanwhile, the prices of Biden's work are also well above what some career painters make on a single artwork. Renowned American artist Jean-Michel Basquiat sold his first artwork in 1984 for $20,900, which equates to roughly $54,000 today. Just a few years ago, Andy Warhol's 1983 Endangered Species sold for $725,000, just $225,000 more than a Biden piece at a New York auction. Biden's art dealer is planning a private viewing in Los Angeles before the solo exhibit. Burgess also has likened Biden to famed British painters Lucian Freud and Francis Bacon, whose artworks have fetched up to $142 million at auction. New York art dealer Alex Acevedo told the New York Post that anyone who buys one of Biden's artworks will be guaranteed a profit because he's President Biden's son. Everybody would want a piece of that. The provenance is impeccable, he said. Acevedo said if it weren't for Biden, the Biden name, the artworks would likely sell for between $25,000 and $100,000, but added that he did like Biden's work. And this goes on. Art consultant Martin Galindo said he wasn't a fan of Biden's art, but was confident the pieces would sell for hefty prices, obviously. They're very positive. I'm very positive he's going to do well in the market because this industry is very much about, what's a simple way to put this? It's like clout. And talking about some of Hunter Biden's misdeeds and misadventures, like using the N-word and things like that. It just goes to show the elites, they have all these ways to get around the tax code, get around the public eye, have money under, give each other money under the table. The same thing happens in the book world. Like I mentioned in the previous post, book deals are often a way for deep state or corporate insiders to get their deal, get paid. Like they'll write a book, or hire a ghostwriter. They'll put on bookstores, and not everyone will buy it, but the person who's maybe buying a favor, they'll buy up a bunch of copies just to funnel money to their mark. So just think, we're learning so much this year. This is like just the latest thing this week. So I think this actually is a good sign that so many masks are being ripped off. We've had the meme stock saga. We've had the cyber attacks, which show the powers be their plans to start a food crisis. We're seeing this. It's like, thank goodness for the internet. Thank goodness that President Trump got a vaccine out that wouldn't be distracted by the pandemic anymore. Thank goodness we don't have any like wars going on that aren't, distracting us. The masks are falling off. So the only problem now will be big tech. So if you don't watch this video on YouTube, you can watch it on Library or Odyssey. You can watch it on Facebook, and I'll post it on most podcast platforms. So Library, in partnership with Odyssey, is it does for publishing what Bitcoin did to money. It's a peer-to-peer blockchain-based video sharing platform that lets you host your videos directly from your computer. And another thing that I'll probably talk about in the next video is the Theta network, next generation video streaming. You can run the Theta program on your own computer and get paid to let it run, and it'll help enable video content sharing. So we'll get to that. And with that, I will let you go. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you I hope we all stick to the man, and I'll see you next time.